So I think probably a lot of people have been on dates which they think like went really well, and then like they get ghosted. And then they're like, what just happened? I thought that went really well. So because we get feedback, that's where we know like what both parties have to say about each other.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course we don't kind of say like, oh, like A say this and B say that, then like nobody's going to ever give us feedback.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like collect the feedback, and after that, if we get like very similar feedback after a while, like then we will tell the client and say, would you like some feedback?
Hello, and welcome to Every Moment is a Choice. I'm your host, Erica Behel, and I invite you to join me on a transformative journey to uncover the extraordinary potential that lies within every single moment of our lives. From the choices we make in our relationships, careers, and personal growth, to the mindset we embrace in the face of adversity, this podcast will empower you to embrace the notion that every moment holds a choice, and it's up to us to seize it. Join me as we engage in insightful conversations with thought leaders, experts, and everyday people who have harnessed the power of choice to achieve greatness, overcome obstacles, and create extraordinary lives. If you feel inspired by this episode, please rate it and consider subscribing. I'm keen to know how it's impacted you. Today, I'm speaking with Violet Lim, CEO, co-founder, and Chief Cupid at Lunch Actually, Asia's largest dating and matchmaking company. Lunch Actually was founded almost 20 years ago when Violet and her then fiancé, now husband, decided to create a platform for busy professionals to meet their potential partners. And as of today, Lunch Actually has set up 150,000 first dates and brought together 5,000 married or committed couples across 6 locations. That's Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Taiwan. So here on Every Moment is a Choice, we talk about living your life intentionally through your choices. And I'm thrilled to have Violet here with her unique vantage point to share her thoughts on how we find and choose love. Welcome, Violet.
Thank you, Erica, for having me.
I'm so excited you're here. Let's start because I want to dig right into your story. So you're an accomplished entrepreneur, you're a TED speaker, and a relationship guru. But take us back to where it all started. I mean, how did you end up as a matchmaker?
I get that question a lot, especially when I meet new people and they're like, oh, like how do you end up become a matchmaker? And of course, I would say that, if I told you my childhood dream is to be a matchmaker, I'll be lying to you. because like, like most kids, especially in Asia, we have been like groomed by our parents to like study hard, get good grades, get a good job. And that's being an obedient only daughter that I am. I did exactly that. Yeah. So I actually read law at university and then I did a master's in HR. My first job was actually in a bank. And that was where I realized that a lot of my colleagues were single and not dating. Yeah. And to me, that was very surprising because like my colleagues, like, bankers being bankers, they are like well-dressed, well-groomed, eligible, attractive. And I'm like, why are so many of them single? And at the same time, quite a lot of my friends were like getting married or getting engaged. And like, I myself met my then boyfriend, now husband at university as well, right? So I realized that, if you people kind of miss that opportunity to meet someone at school or at university, it gets a lot more difficult when you start working. Yeah. So that was like the kind of like problem statement that I saw. So when I was traveling, I came across this concept of lunch dating, which is something that has been very popular in like UK, US, Australia, but nobody was doing anything like that in Singapore or even Asia. Right. And I could really see like my colleagues doing lunch dating because I realized that they just spend so much time at work, but they usually have like a midday break where they just, go for lunch with their like colleagues or friends. So I was just thinking, why not take just one lunch hour like a month to meet someone that you have never met before, make a new friend, and who knows, something will actually come out of it. So I really like that concept. At the same time, I was someone that has always been like the unagony of like my friends. Like when I was growing up, like I'm constantly on the phone, my parents would be like knocking on my door and it's like, who are you talking to, and then I'll be like talking to like maybe the girl on like my home phone, like in those days where people still use like a house phone. And then on the other side, like, my mobile phone, I'll be talking to the guy and I'll be like listening to their problems and I'm trying to like patch them up and solve their problem. So I'm like, okay, I seem to have a knack for this. So, since like I'm doing it anyway, like why not make it into a career? So that was how at 24 years old, I decided to quit my job at a bank and start lunch actually with my then fiance, now husband, Jamie.
Wow. That's such a cool story. And I have to ask, Love Actually came out in 2003.
Yes, that's right.
Did that influence your lunch actually?
That's a very good question. So when we wanted to come up with the name, like Jamie and I had this spreadsheet, like where we'll just put in like names that just come to mind. Like I remember we have like 100 over names on that spreadsheet. You know, it might be like middle of the night, we are both sleeping and suddenly we'll just wake up and like, oh, you know, like inspiration and we write down a name. Yeah. So there were so many names on that spreadsheet. So we are still arguing till today who came up with the name lunch actually. But anyway, but when we had this 100 of names, like we shortlisted to about 5 to 8 of them. And actually our favorite name on that list is not lunch actually. It was the name A Lunch Martini. And I know, I see the expression on your face. Yeah, exactly. and we actually like it so much that we actually have started to ask a designer to start working on the logo. But fortunately, we decided to send the list to our close friends. And we are like, okay, out of this list, like which are the names that you really like and like, you know, what would you vote for and things like that. And the name lunch actually was like a hot favorite. Yeah. And I think probably like you say, you know, the movie Love actually just came out. It's so popular and it's like such a feel-good movie. There's such a powerful, positive connotation to it. Yeah. And like everybody hated A Lunch Martini. they are like, what's that? You know, like they're so pretentious. So anyway, I'm glad that we have, you know, like good thinking of checking with our friends first. So obviously we just like dumped the name A Lunch Martini and then we went with the name lunch actually.
Wow, that's such a fascinating story. Yeah. I have to say, I'm glad you changed the name too.
Yes. Maybe we wouldn't be sitting here having this talk if the company is called A Lunch Martini.
we would not be here maybe, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So lunch actually has been successful and it's next year will be 20 years in business.
Yes.
That's a huge accomplishment. I mean, for starting a business at 24, congrats.
Thank you.
And I know that you're quite ambitious with the business. You've ridden different waves and trends and we'll talk about online dating. Yes. But what is your overriding goal? What do you want to do with lunch actually?
So I think, you know, like I get asked very frequently, like, did I know from day one that the business is going to be where it is today? So the answer is 100% no. Like, when we first started the business, we were very clear about a couple of things. We thought that we definitely want to grow the business to a certain size. So we were clear we didn't want to kind of be like a mom and pop shop, which is fine, you know, like it's just that that wasn't what we were looking for. And we're also very clear that because this business is so niche and like Singapore is so small, so from day one, we knew we will expand overseas. Yeah, because again, that's something that I get asked a lot. People will be like, oh, no, you have like such courage to expand overseas and things like that. And I'm just kind of like, not really, because from day one, we knew we were going to do it. So it's really a mindset that we already had. And the truth is, it's like, it's a very, very difficult business. And like, there are really days that I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, this is so tough. Like, why am I doing this? But I think what really kept me anchored and like kept me going is I just felt I've just been very blessed. And I just feel that in a way, it's like there's a reason why I've been so blessed. Like it's really to like give back and help others. So I met Jamie, like my husband, at 20 years old. So we met at university and then we got married when I was 25. And then we had our first kid, so our son, when I was 26. And then had our daughter, like Kara, like when I was 29. So in a way, like before 30, like kind of like, you know, have the like, you know, what a lot of people would like to have, like, you know, married with kids and things like that. So I just feel that there must be a reason why, like, I am, like, so blessed, you know, to help others and to pay it forward. And hence, like, I think maybe a couple of years into the business, like, we decided to come up with this big, hairy, audacious goal, which is 1 million happy marriages. Nice. Yeah, so honestly, it's very aspirational because it's not easy to have 1 million happy marriages. But I think at the same time, it's really what keeps us going and like reminding us like why we are doing this. And I would say maybe about a couple of years back, I met the CEO of Matrimony in India. So it's the largest matrimonial services company in India. It's called Matrimony. And like after I meet him, I actually feel quite good because he actually, I think, probably hit this number every year.
But he's got a big
population.
Yeah,
exactly. He has a big population. So in a way, like it just makes me feel that this is possible.
Yeah.
Yes. So in fact, like, I was like, okay, like I think that's really great. I met someone who have done it. So like even though like we are in like much smaller countries, like with smaller population, but I think this is really what keeps us anchored and to just drive us towards like achieving our big, hairy, audacious goal.
That's amazing. And it is like aspirational, but someone has done it.
Yeah, so exactly. It's possible.
I love that. Okay, so we have to ask, because dating in 2023, I mean, you've been at this for a while, but dating in 2023 seems to be dominated by swiping.
Yes.
Swiping left, swiping right, by companies like Tinder or the other dating apps. Yep. And everything is based on like a photo. And it's almost like it seems like decisions are made in a split second almost. And, who knows if they're actually looking for committed relationships anyway. But even on those apps that are specifically geared towards looking towards partnerships and everything, it's still kind of a swiping culture.
Yes, that's right.
But and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that you said you set up blind dates.
Yes.
When you matchmake.
That's right.
The total opposite. So what drives your philosophy behind that?
I think a lot of people, when they hear that we are still doing blind dates, they are like very surprised, especially because now with dating apps, like it's really driven by a photo. Our philosophy behind it is quite simple, actually. So it's also, I think, like maybe why I'm so committed to it. It's also because of my personal story. So I always tell people, I say, if like my husband and I like would have met on an app, we probably would have never met. Yeah, my husband and I mean, we met in university. But if you were to ask him and ask me, when is the first time we met, we'll give you two different answers. And of course, my answer is correct. So I think like my husband, when he was at university, like he was dating like a certain trend, like I mean, we all have that. We kind of like just date a certain style, type, right? And like I didn't fall into like his type. So I think that was the reason that when we first met, I wasn't someone that he really recalled because I was just not his type. And it was really funny because like when I tell him the story, and then of course every time I tell this story, he would get so embarrassed. But it was like kind of like orientation kind of events, like university, a lot of these events. So like we first met at a club, and then he's like, but the club is so dark and there are so many people, So I'm like, okay, like that makes sense. I say, but then after that, we like a group of us, like maybe 10, 15 of us went to have supper at Chinatown. And obviously it's very bright, right? It's like a round table. Everybody can see everybody. Yeah. And he's like, oh, but like it's so many people and the table is like so big. And I said, yeah, but after that, we actually shared a cab. So like that's like maybe like 4 people. But anyway, it's okay. The next time we met, which is the time he remember we met, is at this student society election. I was running for president. So he found me very memorable at that point is because he was like, who is this girl? Because I'm actually direct entry student, meaning, I didn't start in year 1. I went in year 2. Okay. And then everybody know that student society election at those points is a popularity contest. So it's very much like you just bring all your friends, right? Yeah. And then he's like, this girl is like a direct entry student. She just started like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks. She obviously do not have many friends, like, very gutsy to run for president, right? Yeah. So then I gave my speech, and then he was very impressed by my speech. He's like, wow, she speaks really well and her points are really good. So that was the time he remembered meeting me. So it wasn't so much like a physical attraction, but it's really more like an intellectual attraction in that sense. Yeah. So so exactly, if we would have met on a dating app, he 100% would have swiped left and then we would have never met. So just coming back to your question, which is why like we are so insistent of doing a blind date. So I mean, I always tell my clients that at the end of the day, you're not looking for like a one-night stand. You're not looking for like a casual relationship. You're looking for something that's long-term. So meaning you're looking for a partner that's probably going to spend, the rest of your life with you. And I say that by the time we're all 70, we are probably like all like old, wrinkly and saggy. Like we all probably look the same, right? And you are looking for someone who share the same life values, like the same like life goals, and that's what is most important to you. So why would you want to like let a photo to make that decision? Because, some people are just more photogenic than others. And I think like I'm like one of those. Like it's quite funny. Like usually when people see me in person or like they see my photo, they're like, oh, you're really photogenic. And there are some people who are not photogenic, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you might just like, oh, I don't think I like how this person looks. But when you meet the person, like you are seeing them in like 3D, 4D, 5D, right? Like the voice, like the way they carry themselves, the way they treat others, all of this thing you can't see in a photo. And you're just judging someone just on something that is so surface. Like I just don't think it makes sense when you're looking for your life partner. Yeah. So that's the reason, like whenever we make a match, we want to make sure that they give each other a chance and really experience that person in person and not making that judgment just based on a single photo.
Understood. And do you guys do a 100% manual process, or do you use like algorithms to help you with that?
I would say we have like the algorithms to help with the initial screening. So for example, like some people, maybe their faith is very important to them, or some people they are looking to date someone from similar ethnicity, things like that. So like the system will help to do that matching and on the match back. So like whatever I'm looking for, the person is also looking for me, and that would then give us like a shortlist group of people, and then our matchmaker will still go in one by one. So I would say each match subsequently is still handpicked by the matchmaker.
Nice. And you have like a success rate on your first date? Like you get feedback and everything,
yes, that's right?
Because
that's right.
You have so many hundreds of thousands of data points probably already.
Yes. Yeah. So one question, of course, we get asked all the time is like, what is your success rate? And I would say that our success rate is not based on like same marriages, because from the point that we arrange the date for them to meet up to the point that they get married is actually quite a long process. And there are a lot of different things that can happen. But how we measure our success is after each date, like how they rate the match. Yep. So out of the 150,000 first dates that we have a match, I would say that 85% have been rated as good to excellent by our members. Yeah. So like to us, like that is like what we benchmark on, because what we are trying to make sure is that when whatever match that we put out, or like when we put two people together, at least like they feel that okay, this person like meets like 60-70% of what I'm looking for, and I also meet like 60-70% of what this person is looking for, and then ultimately then it's up to them to bring it to the next level.
Right. So do you track people after the first date and see?
We do. So like sometimes when we do the next match, they will ask them like, how was your previous match? Did you exchange contact details? Did you go on a second date? That's what we always do. However, it's quite interesting sometimes, because some people, they get a membership package, and let's say the membership package has like 10 dates, and then sometimes like, at the end of it, they will say that, oh, I met someone, and then you would think like, oh, is it the 10th date? Then it's not, it's the first date. So yeah, so it's interesting. I think different people, like they really utilize their membership differently. There are also people who sign up for a 10-date package, and then they meet the person on the first date and they are like, it's okay, I don't need to meet the next 9.
Wow.
Yeah, so like people do it differently. They do not always tell us that they have met someone through us. So sometimes we find it out through friends. Like there are friends who come to us, and then we're like, oh, how do you know about us? And then we're like, oh, like my friend who and who actually met through you guys, and then that's why I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so now that you have been doing this for quite a while and you have all this data.
Yes.
The apps have come kind of, they fade in and out. There was, I think like things like Match.com were already in existence like more than 20 years ago.
Yes, that's right. But then Tinder is like maybe about 10 plus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of people's like expectations and what they I imagine that some of the people who come to you have already tried the dating apps.
Yes.
What do they tell you about the experience? Like why do they come to you as a result of maybe not enjoying the dating apps, perhaps?
I would say most people, when they start using a dating app, like it's quite fun initially because it's like a game. It's like you swipe and then like you get excited when like someone swipe, right on you as well, and then like you start chatting and things like that. So I think the first part of it is like quite fun, and you get kick out of it, right? Like, oh, someone like me back. I would say if people spend like maybe 3 or 4 months on an app, and they do not kind of like see the result, then they will start getting like quite jaded after a while, because after a while it becomes like work, because you have to swipe, you have to like be very discerning as well, because I think with dating apps, like again, I know of people who have met their other half on a dating app, so it definitely works for people. But at the same time, like there are a lot of different characters on the dating app. So there are like obviously serious, genuine singles, but there are also like people who's just looking for like fun. There are married people. There are like insurance agents. So it's
Crypto.
crypto. Yeah, so it's really a whole spectrum of people on it, and you really need to be very discerning, and then you need to spend time to like sift out all these like strange characters to meet the right person to even go on a date. And I think sometimes like with dating apps, like the kind of way that people present themselves on an app, and when you finally meet them in person, it's a bit different as well. So that is also some things that people get very tired of. It's like, I thought I'm meeting A, and then I end up meeting B, even though they're same person, but not really.
Right.
Yeah. And after a while, it just gets very tiring. And I think that's kind of some of the feedback that we got. And for some of the people who come to us as well, they are doing very well in their career, and after a while, they're just like, I don't have time for this. And then I remember meeting a lawyer, and I mean, he's being paid like probably, I don't know, like 500 or 1,000 an hour, right? Like, so time for him is money. So rather than like spending his time like on swiping, he might as well work with us, where we do all the work for him.
Vetting and all that.
Exactly. So basically, we are like kind of like doing all the legwork, and all they need to do is to show up, at the restaurant and enjoy the date and get to know each other. So I think after a while, they're like, okay, this probably makes more sense.
Yeah, it seems like a more efficient way, but also something that will, like, that there's a higher chance of success.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it is also when people are using app, it's very much what they think works for them. So it's like they putting down like who they think they are, they putting down who they think they are looking for. But I think when you're working with us, that's also the professional input as well. So like I always tell my matchmakers, I say, you're not like a waiter or waitress. You're actually a dietitian or nutritionist. So like it's quite different in a sense, because I mean clearly if you're a waiter or waitress and then like the person like just order whatever they want to eat, and you are thinking, okay, like if you eat this probably will kill you, but you're like, okay, but I'm just here to take orders, right? Yeah, but if you're a nutritionist or dietitian, you're like, no, don't eat that, like that's really bad, do you want to consider something else? So that's really where we are coming from, to like understand what their objective is, and then to also understand the reason for maybe some of the preferences or criteria that they have. And if we feel that, okay, like this might not make sense, or like, would you actually consider something different, or maybe do you want to widen your preferences, because that might also help you to achieve your objective. So that's really like where we come in as well, to offer a different perspective. And I think that has helped. And the other part of it is really the feedback. So I think probably a lot of people have been on dates which they think like went really well, and then like they get ghosted. And then they're like, what just happened? I thought that went really well, So because we get feedback, that's where we know like what both parties have to say about each other.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course we don't kind of say like, oh, like A say this and B say that, then like nobody's going to ever give us feedback. So we just kind of like collect the feedback, and after that, if we get like very similar feedback after a while, like then we will tell the client and say, would you like some feedback? And then they say, yeah, sure, then we'll just let them know like maybe some of their blind spots, and maybe like these are some of the reasons why like their dating journey has not been going as well as they would like it to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like a coaching element.
Yes, that's right.
Which is part of your business as well, right?
Yes.
So explain a little bit about the type of coaching that you do.
So we offer date coaching and image coaching. So the story how you even end up doing coaching is that I realized something very interesting. Like I realized that there's a group of people, like they might go on like maybe 3 dates, 5 dates, and then they will put their membership on hold, and then they're like, oh, I'm seeing someone, and you don't need to match me anymore. And then there's another group of people who like maybe go on like 5 dates, 10 dates, 15 dates, 20 dates, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And then I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, like is it that my matchmakers, they are playing favoritism and they are just matching the first group better than the second group? But that doesn't make sense, because for us, they sign up for a membership. So if we are able to find them someone earlier than later, it makes our life easier, because then we can move on to work with someone else.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no reason why we want to sabotage ourselves to just having to keep sending them on dates.
Yeah.
So then I realized that the first group is that they already have the right mindset and right skill set. And I think that's where like our matching philosophy comes in as well. So we realized that a lot of singles, when you ask them why they are single, they'll tell you that I've not met the right one. So they are very fixated on this idea, like why I'm single is because I've not met the right one. But what we have realized is like finding the right one is not just about meeting the right one, it's also about being the right one and also choosing the right one.
Yeah.
So that's really where coaching comes in. Like, of course, like our matchmaking process is helping them with meeting the right one. But if they are not the right one themselves to start off with, it doesn't matter how many matches I put them on, it's just not going to work. That's where we realize that, okay, we need to add coaching to like our services. And our coach actually help our clients to like understand themselves better and to also identify like maybe certain blind spots or gaps that they might not be aware of. I mean, when it comes to say mindset, I have met like ladies who come to me like they're a bit like, jaded after a while and they are like, Violet, there are no more good men in this world. Like all the good men in this world are either dead, married or gay. So I mean, it's like if that's the mindset, the problem is that it doesn't matter how many matches I give them. At the back of their head, they are like, this is not a good man because there's no good man in this world, right? Yeah, so
it's a belief.
It's a belief, right? Yeah. So it's things like that. Like, so then we have to address like why do they think that way? Yeah, like what is the underlying issue? Or like there are sometimes that people come out of like really painful relationships and then they still have not gotten over it. And that's also stopping them from going forward as well. So for example, like remember there was this guy, he came to the office, like a very eligible, like very nice guy. And then, then we started to understand like more about what he's looking for. And we're like, okay, that makes sense. Then towards the end of the consultation, and then he took out this photo from his like bag and he said, I want all my dates to look like this. And we're like, okay, who is this? And then he's like, oh, that's my ex-girlfriend. And then, we're kind of like, okay, like this guy is probably not ready to like, go on a new relationship. He's still pining for his ex, like there's still some unfinished business there. So we did not sign him up actually. And then we say, okay, you probably need some time to like get over your breakup. And then, when you're ready, then, we can talk more. Because I think it's not fair like to him and it's not fair to the ladies that we will introduce to him as well. Yeah. So
that sounds like very ethical business practice where, if you know that someone is not going to be a good match.
Yes.
In his current mindset.
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah. Or like, we can then just like get him to go through coaching first to like work on some of these things. So that's really where the coaching comes in. But of course, as dating gets, I would say like, I don't know, more complicated. Now, like we do offer like different things like WhatsApp critique. So it's a bit like texting critique. Because I think like when it comes to like dating apps and like, just texting nowadays, like it's so complicated because you're actually competing with a lot of people. Like, but people just never see it that way. Because when people are talking on dating apps, like they're rarely only talking to one person. Yeah. They're usually talking to like, I don't know, like 10 different people. And if you're very boring and then you just like say things like good morning, good night, like, have you eaten yet? Like, you're just going to get ghosted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we come into. In a way, it's a bit like personal branding, like working with the clients to find out a bit more about who they really are and also helping them to really bring up like, all these points up, like so that they don't get ghosted or they really present themselves so that they get a chance to actually go on a date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we do. And sometimes like some clients, they might not have a lot of dating experience. Also like, helping them to like pep talk them, give them that confidence to like just, escalate the relationship to the next level. So like, I mean, these are some of the things that our coaches actually do.
I think it's so profound that you focus on being the right one.
Yeah.
And so many people out there are just saying, someone else has to kind of conform to me, but look at yourself. I mean, that's and understanding what they do value, right?
Yes.
Beyond, oh, he has to be this tall or she has to look like this.
Yeah.
What are you actually looking for?
Yeah.
Take some self-reflection, I guess. So you also talked about choosing the right one. So what does choosing the right one entail?
Okay. So choosing the right one, it's a bit like, just now we talk about like everybody kind of have a type. And then sometimes like, I'm sure we have been in, like gatherings where like we meet the new girlfriend of this guy. And then you're like, is this really a new girlfriend? Like this really kind of look like the old girlfriend. But yes, it's a new girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like people just keep repeating the cycle over and over again. And I think sometimes like people choose a certain type because they think that that works. But like where we are coming in, like we are really helping them to realize like why are they even choosing like a certain type. So for example, I remember having a conversation with, I can't remember, like one of my friends, like this guy. He said like, I really like girls with long hair. And I'm like, do you know why you like girls with long hair? And he's like, no, I just like girls with long hair. And then I just kind of like, okay, the reason like why like a lot of guys usually like girls with long hair is because long, luscious hair, you know, like is a mark of like health. That means you have good health. And then like it's also like kind of like a fertility marker. Like that also shows that you're probably fertile. Like so things like that. And then the guy was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that. Then I say, yeah, exactly. So it's like if you meet a girl and she has short hair, it's probably like just a style. It's just trendy. Like it really means so much to you. I'm sure after you guys get together, you maybe can talk her into growing her hair. You know what I'm saying? Just things like that. Or like, you know, like ladies would be like, oh, I like guys who are like very tall. And I'm like, do you know why you like guys who are very tall, right? So it's like just trying to get people to understand like a lot of like our choices are actually in a way quite biological. Like it really has like maybe nothing to do with whether this person is going to be like a good father or a good husband, you know, or like a good mother or a good wife. It has no correlation at all. But it's just something that is kind of like hardwired to us to like kind of look for these things. Yeah. So I think like when they get a bit of this awareness, I mean, I would say it wouldn't totally change the way they choose, but at least it gives them an awareness like, oh, that's why I'm choosing it this way, right? So I think that's one part of it. The other part of it is also to make them realize that ultimately, what is your objective? I remember like this friend of mine, by the time like she say, okay, you know, maybe can you help me find someone? I think that time she was in like her 30s, like maybe mid 30s. But she's still like at that point dating like as if she's in her 20s. Yeah, so you know, like when we're in our 20s, like I don't know, like everybody have a six pack or you know, a head full of hair and things like that. But you know, as like guys grow older, like maybe in their mid 30s or 40s, like some of them like maybe start to have like thinning hair and like maybe like not so much the beach board, but more like the dad board and things like that. I mean, of course, there are still guys like at that age group who looks like, I don't know, like some like beach boy or something. But most of them wouldn't. But more importantly, like what are we looking for? Are we looking for like someone to have a casual relationship with? Or are we looking for someone who would be a good partner for us or like, you know, a good parent for our kids? So I was very happy. Like one day, then she told me like, oh, I met someone. I'm like, oh, okay. So like I was like kind of like waiting to like meet this guy. And when I met him, I was like, okay, I'm quite happy. Like, you know, she's really choosing based on the right things. So I mean, this guy, like, don't get me wrong, he's very decent. Like, but he is definitely not like that guy that she was initially like looking out for. Right. But he like worships the ground she walks on. It's like, you know, he's so attentive. Like you can see that he's just so into her. And then I mean, subsequently they got married and then they have a kid. And then now he's just such a doting father. Like, yeah. So I think that's just, you know, what we would like to share with our clients, that when you choose, just know like what are you working towards. Yeah.
And I can see how that you translating people's kind of desires based on physical characteristics into what are you really looking for? Maybe it's not a woman with long hair, but a woman who wants to have children.
Yes, if that's important to you.
If that's important to you, and kind of translating those into more values or attributes.
Yes. So we always kind of like split it into like superficial criteria and like significant criteria. So I mean, of course, I say that in the most ideal world, of course, we should have both. But sometimes life is not so ideal. So if we have to choose, like actually the significant criteria is really what is going to make or break a relationship. It's like not so much the superficial criteria. But of course, I mean, like we are realistic as well. So when we do the matching, we also need to make sure that they would still somehow like be attracted to each other, because like, you know, there's no point I make a match that's so compatible in every way, but they're just not attracted to each other. That's not going to work as well.
So there has to be a bit of give and take.
Yes, that's right.
I just find myself so curious about how you're creating so much success from this. And because I know, like you said, a lot of people using dating apps and everything are getting disillusioned with them. Because you've been doing this now for almost 20 years, what do you find has changed over the years? Is there anything that's gotten kind of better over the years, or like what has changed?
I would say quite a lot of things have changed, definitely. Like now with dating apps, I think sometimes people kind of see dates as like commodities. It's like easy come, easy go, right? In the past, I would say like dates are like something that's very precious. Like when you're like, oh, like I'm going on a date, it's like it's so exciting. Like people will be thinking like, what should I wear? It's like it's just something that's so exciting. But now it's like going on a date, it's like, oh, okay. Because like, if you're using a dating app and like you know what you're doing, like it's not difficult to have a date, I don't know, every week or like a few dates a week, or some people can even do like a few dates a day. So it just kind of becomes something that's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Like a commodity.
Yeah. Like, okay, let's do it. And then the problem with that, then it also become like a paradox of choice because it's just so easy. And you're like, you meet this person, you're like, oh, that person is okay. But maybe the next one is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the paradox of choice is such an interesting topic because if you have, an app full of 20 people who are ready to meet with you.
Yes.
I always think like, what's the incentive? Because relationships are hard. They take work.
Yes.
And you have to choose to be in love every day, basically. And so if at the first sign of this person's difficult or it's something I don't want to deal with, I just switch to the next person.
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like there's a very disposable feeling to dating.
Yeah. I think in general, I think like not just dating, like I think even with like relationships, I think now with like the accessibility of apps, like, like just the abundance of opportunities of meeting new people, I think people just, have this maybe mindset of it's just easier to just move on, like rather than sticking with, like you say, like what they have and trying to work on it. Because like, why do that when maybe the next person is better? So I think like sometimes we see this not just when it comes to dates, but I think in marriages as well. Yeah. So I think in the past, people are like, when someone get divorced, it's something like really big, like maybe it's like a, like domestic violence situation. Obviously, like the lady should leave, right? Or like it's like maybe infidelity, like, okay, totally understand. Or, like it's something like really huge. But now it's like you hear that, I mean, again, not to diminish like any of people's experiences, but it just becomes something more like, okay, like you say, it's just not working out. And I know that maybe there's just more choices out there.
Yeah.
Like, so why not just move on and just, try something different?
Yeah. I actually looked up some statistics because, I mean, your business is across Asia.
Yeah.
But I was looking up some statistics for Singapore.
Yes.
Because Singapore, like many Asian countries, has a very low and declining birth rate.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of governments in this region who are very keen on making more marriages and more babies locally.
Yes.
So there was a statistic I looked up on, it was like a marriage and parenthood survey, I think, done. And they looked at kind of longitudinally over the years how people's attitudes towards marriage changed. Yeah. And I think the most recent one was like 2 years ago or something, but it said 80% of Singaporeans still want to get married, but that's down from what it used to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of steadily declining of, do I even ever want to get married in the first place? Yeah. So how do you see that impacting your business? I mean, if you're looking to create marriages.
I think definitely we do see that. Like people are starting to think like, okay, do I really need to get married? Or like, do I just want to be in like a committed relationship? Or I think in some of the Western countries, like they have like de facto relationships and things like that, right? As of right now, like we don't really see it affecting our business in that sense. I think like there's still similar, or like even bigger demand for our business, especially since COVID. So COVID has been very interesting because I think to a certain extent, like COVID kind of gave people the experience of like, oh, so this is how it feels like if I'm going to be alone. Yeah, so I think it was quite interesting. Like after that, there was really like an uptick of people like inquiring and signing up for our service. I think, like whether people have the desire to get married or not, I feel that as human beings, we always have like this innate desire to have a companion. Yeah, be it, in a marriage or be it in just a committed relationship. So I don't think like that's really going to make an impact. But I do see a worrying trend where, a lot of couples, even though that they are married, they are thinking whether they want to have kids. So that's, I think, probably another problem that I guess like governments are probably going to have to like grapple with.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is, I mean, I've been in Singapore for 12 years now.
Yes.
And I've heard lots of things like kids are too expensive.
Yes. Yes.
Why do I want to have them?
Yeah.
Or in European countries, you might get a whole year off when you have a baby.
Yes,
But
that's right.
here it's maybe 3 or 4 months, depending
Yeah.
on your status and
Yeah.
everything. And so there's different policy things that you could achieve, right? But yeah, there's a whole spectrum of reasons why people may not feel
Yep.
they want to bring kids
Yep.
in the world. We're both moms. So, the joys that come with kids.
Yes.
So you are around 5,000 marriages or committed
Yep.
relationships that you've created. And I think you said somewhere that it's a source of inspiration. Sometimes you keep their photos. Or you
Yes, I do.
look
So, like there are days that I'm just like, oh, I just want to throw in the towel. I don't want to do this anymore. It's so hard. And then I have this like folder like where I like keep photos of their marriage couples or like their kids. Yeah. And in fact, like in our company, like Slack communication, like we have one channel that we call like 1 million happy marriages. And that's really where all our matchmakers would update, everybody like on a couple that has just gotten together or like a marriage, like sometimes they will send us like their wedding photos, or sometimes they might like invite like our matchmakers to their wedding, or sometimes they might send us gifts and things like that. So like that channel is really to showcase like all of these things that's happening. And I think it just really encourage us and remind us like of our why and like why we're actually doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like you have that strong why.
Yeah.
You're not just building a business because you're entrepreneurial,
Yes.
but this has been your calling, really.
Yes.
So your business has been successful and you've expanded as well. And you have this big, hairy, audacious goal. And, it's possible. What is the one thing that you would invest in to help you get to that goal if you had like all the money in the world to play with?
Oh, wow. I think one thing that is very important, I feel it's really coaching and education. Yeah. So what we have realized is that clients who have gone through coaching, like usually like we've found the sweet spot, it's like about 7 sessions of coaching.
Yeah.
Their chances of success is actually higher. And in fact, sometimes it can like almost like double up the chance of success.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think like, what would be very interesting is, if we're able to like invest into our coaching arm, to like probably do more research, to be able to come up with even like more like methodologies, like to hire like coaches to train them and to be able to, I think not just work with our clients, but even I would say with school children, like maybe from teenage onwards. Yeah, I think just giving them like the right mindset and the right skill set about relationships, about communication, about, I don't know, like even aspirations, like when it comes to family. Like I think that would be really helpful, because what we have realized is that not everybody like come from, like a happy family kind of like background or situation. And of course it can go both ways. Like some would be like, okay, because I didn't, come from like a happy like family situation, I want to make sure that I have one. But there are also some that they just feel that, okay, like obviously this doesn't work, like why should I even bother?
Yeah.
Right? So I think if we are just able to create like this awareness, to give them this education, to just give them this skill set and mindset, it would just help them to aspire to want to have like happy relationships. Yeah. Or to know what to look out for as well. And I think that would actually help us closer to achieve our BHAG.
That's such a an interesting observation and decision around what actually matters.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not having 10,000 more people on your app or something to scroll through. It's not the having so many choices, but it's more understanding who you are and what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And what a healthy relationship could look like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is profound. I mean, I definitely think that. Well, that would make a big difference as well in just, I think, society.
Yeah.
That would have huge ripple effects. So I go back to you as an entrepreneur, because you are You strike me as just like you're playing your own game. You're not trying to copy anyone. You've withstood all of this new market entrance in terms of the dating apps and everything, but you're still going very strong, and you still have this vision. But operating in a profession like matchmaking is probably as old as time. I mean, in India, it's a whole industry,
Yes,
right?
yes, it's huge.
So what is next for you? Like, what do you want to take this to in the future?
I would say there are so many ways to look into this, right? Like, I think where we see like we can continue to grow in our impact is really in terms of like products, like what else can we offer to help our clients to be more successful in their journey. Yeah, so I think definitely on the coaching side, like, what else can we do better? So that's more in terms of the product and services offering. And then on the other side would definitely be our geographical reach. Yeah, so I think we are more or less in most countries in Southeast Asia right now. So that's still, more countries in like North Asia or like, potentially like how we can expand out of like Asia as well. So I think what we have done successfully is we really have managed to systemize the business to a certain extent. And I think surprisingly what we have realized is that as much as like we are playing in like quite a small region, we are quite sophisticated in like quite a lot of our processes and offerings as compared to like maybe some other regions. So given the right opportunity and resources, we would love to like expand out of Asia as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it could go even more global.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
That'd be very cool. Excellent. Well, I'm so happy that you came and chatted with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I remember one thing I read that you said one time, that love is not a feeling, it's a choice.
Yeah, definitely.
And from talking to you, I mean, it's just nice to hear that someone in matchmaking in this industry is concerned with the deeper aspects of it when so much of it today seems very superficial. So it's very nice. Very nice to meet and talk to you today.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica, for having me.
Thanks, Violet.
Thank you for listening today. I hope this has been a useful investment of your time. If you feel inspired by this episode, please rate it and consider subscribing. I'm keen to know how it's impacted you.